We're glad to have you back. Well, Africa is not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of eradicating extreme poverty. While many countries were successful in reducing poverty during the years before the pandemic, its economic disruptions coupled with climate disasters and food and fuel inflation caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine have put spanners in the wheels of growing vulnerabilities to climate events like droughts and flood, food insecurity, as well as widening fragility in several parts of the continent, darken the outlook. A burgeoning young or youthful population faces poor prospects for productive employment, raising social tensions and robbing countries of their demographic dividends. Meanwhile, high debt burdens limit government's room to maneuver and promote pro-government investments in electrification, digital connectivity, health, and education. The interaction of these factors risks further driving up inequity to undermine fragile social compact. With productive social safety nets, Africa is a tool in the toolbox that is making a real difference in tackling the intertwined challenges of extreme poverty, vulnerability to climate change and fragility, poor opportunities for young people. Let's talk to Dr. Femi Oladele, Rising Star in Residence, Freiburg Rising Stars Academy, Albert Ludwigs Universität, Freiburg in Germany. It's good to see you, Dr. Oladele, over there. How are you doing? It's been a while.
Yes, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, interestingly, we are talking about social safety nets and all that it has to do with the challenges we face in Nigeria, the fallout of it. Many will say, oh, Nigeria ought to have gone better or done better than this. What are the challenges or what do you identify and what have you seen? Tell us a bit of what you've been able to research on regards this topic.
Thank you so much. Basically, there are life truths that we all are aware of. Affordability. We can do a simple calculation. If we say that more than 133 million people are in multidimensional poverty, and that was 2022 results, and we say we want to lift out 100 million and give them, let's say, 25,000 naira each month, then we would be needing close to 30 trillion naira. And we just talked about the budget, which is just 47 trillion. So we have a gap where we cannot finance a very suitable and extensive social protection programs. Also, we have administrative bottlenecks, which I wish that I have seen the content of the bill that was transmitted to the Legislative House by the President. I would have been able to speak more, but I believe that some of the highlights that were announced would do justice to fixing some of the bottlenecks that we currently face with respect to social protection programs in Nigeria. And another significant issue is the issue of trust. So people don't necessarily trust the government to give them something, and there are others who believe that there will be a dependency or an entitlement syndrome. If you give me social protection programs such as cash transfers, then I would rely on that and I may not work. Research has found that those are not necessarily true, but those are significant challenges that we have seen in the field.
Data seems to be very important too. Many will tell you that we've not been able to manage data so well in this part of the world. Now we have the NIMN, NIMC, we have a series of platforms now where we have to register and all of that. Do you think that we're on the right track regards to that?
I believe that NASCO is doing, and that's the agency of government in charge of developing the National Social Register. Yes. They are doing a fantastic job, although I must say that we currently have a static National Social Register. We need to move beyond that and go to a dynamic National Social Register, which is, by the way, very expensive for us to maintain that. But I would also say that it's not necessarily only in Nigeria where we have data issues. We have data issues across the world, but it's more acute in Africa, I must say. And in Nigeria, the situation is not necessarily good enough for us, and we can do better. And we already have primary markers. We have the NIN, we have the BVN, we have different areas where we can collect data, but we have to strengthen those institutions to collect those data. So, for example, we don't need to wait for for parents to go and register their children when children are born. We could enlist hospitals, which is being done right now, supported by some international organizations, to enlist children immediately. And that way, we have data on a continuing basis, and it would take, maybe we would have a 1 week lag to say we have such a number of people living within communities. And also, you understand that there are issues with respect to census. I for one, subjectively don't believe in the use of census with respect to the offerings of technologies that we have now. And yes, truly, data is a problem. If we can't get our data right, social protection programs will go very, very awry. I recall that, for example, the National Cash Transfer Office says that they have about 9 million people in the beneficiary register, but the federal government is saying that 25 million people have enjoyed cash transfer. So there is a gap that needs to be fixed.
Some would argue that sometimes throwing money at all of these issues, that there could be other means or ways they could reach out to vulnerable ones, like government would say. Are we also looking at other options? What are the available options aside cash transfers and all of that? What comes to my mind is empowerment and all of that. Is that also one way we could get to address or reduce poverty, the number of those sliding into poverty by the day?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, for developing economies, I recommend a combination of social protection programs, not just cash transfers. But we in our research group, we use this example a lot. If you see the video of a wealthy man popping champagne on the high seas, you won't complain. But when you see a poor man get money and possibly buy a bottle of Coke, you would complain because you say he's wasting the money. And so the way we render who deserves to enjoy life or who deserves to enjoy some of the basics of life affects the way that we see things. So people say, oh, if you are just giving someone cash, he will become dependent, he will become entitled. But also, that cash enhances productivity. And we should also understand that the principles of paternalism in trying to say, I know what the poor people deserve, is not right. Putting money in their hands would definitely allow them as human beings to make the choices that they want to make. It's their money. They can use it the way they want to use it. And that also actually contributes significantly to economic processes and productivity. Because whatever it is that they are buying means that there will be demand in that sector, and then there will be more productivity, and that productivity is good for the economy. Also, we could combine cash transfer programs with significant increase in infrastructural development. One of the reasons why we have significantly high number of poor people in Nigeria is because our social systems are not so good. Transport systems are not so very good as we would want it to be. Health, education, and all of that, if we can resolve all of those. But the truth is that in addressing all of those at once is not possible at this time because we cannot afford it. But we could do a combination. So I recall that when the HUP started, the conditional cash transfer started, we had this top-up program where if you meet certain thresholds, you get additional funding. So if your children go to school, then you get additional funding. If you attend your antenatal programs, you get additional funding. So we could combine that. But saying that cash transfer is not good, I don't subscribe to that ideology.
Do we have some practical figures? Do we have impact? Talking about impact, looking at the impact of cash transfers and all of that. In your research, have you seen anything around the impact, how this has been impactful in helping, of course, lift people out of poverty?
Yes, quantitatively, that's very difficult because we don't have the figures. Also, I must mention that all of the cash transfers that we have done in Nigeria, none of them has gone beyond 2 years, and that's an issue, really, because it's not enough to sustain the kind of impact that we want to. The most recent now says that you get 25,000 3 times, that's 75,000 in your lifetime. That's not enough money to make significant economic contribution, really. So I wouldn't say quantitatively, but qualitatively, we have testimonies. Even on the website of the National Cash Transfer Office, there are a series of testimonies. And also in my own research with my colleagues here, we have seen people who said, oh, I was able to buy a land, I was able to complete my education, I was able to put food on the table, I was able to start a business. And there are many of those diverse testimonies like that. While we cannot attribute that to just cash transfers, we can say that they are contributory factors to those outcomes that we have seen.
Let me take you down to our regular discussion around entrepreneurs. Of course, small businesses also need help. They need funding. Yeah. They need support and all of that. What's been happening around that space? It's sounding pretty competitive. Let me use that word. They're finding it so difficult at this time, looking at the price of fuel and all of that. What sort of interventions do you think entrepreneurs and small businesses also need at this time? Focused.
So if you ask me, I think that entrepreneurs, especially small business owners and managers, should also have access to cash transfers. It gives them the peace of mind to be able to. So when you're not thinking about your next meal, you are more innovative. This is what research has found out. But when you are thinking about your next meal and you're thinking about how to power your machines to do business, then you have a whole lot of challenge ahead of you. So like the 50,000 that was given in June, I hope that the federal government resumes that and puts real cash in the hands of real business people such that it helps them to continue to offer value. Because the truth is that around the world, we mentioned this during I think the entrepreneurship week or something where I was on your program. Across the world, small businesses are the significant contributors to economic indices, the GDP. They are the highest employers of labor. And so if we don't create an environment for them to thrive, then there's a problem. Also, where pilots have been done with basic income, not necessarily cash transfer in this sense, research has found that there is a significant positive impact between basic income and entrepreneurial outcomes. So it's going to be significant for us. And I look forward to the presidency rethinking support for business people. If I am a business owner and I know that the government is paying me a sort of a salary, I'm able to be more innovative and focused and produce and increase my productivity.
Tech, again, comes to my mind. Are we taking so very much advantage of the positives in tech to, tap into this horizon of positivity in the world of MSMEs and small businesses? Do you think we are doing so very well in taking advantage of tech? During COVID, many moved towards that line, but I think now things are getting back to normal, or things are back to normal, let me put it that way. But we still have opportunities in that space, not to talk of AI, that many things might also take away some jobs or create new jobs. What's what move or what positives do you think tech would add into the lifespan of any small business at this very time?
Absolutely. Technology would define so many things. It would define our processes, our operations, our activities. It would define and redefine existing roles. That's a given. And I believe that many small business owners are doing their best, but we still cannot undermine the fact that there are significant shortages in infrastructure in Nigeria. So power, for example, access to the internet. We just saw what happened just the interview just before mine, where there was a break. I had a testimony of maybe a friend or so, I can't recall correctly, who lost an international job because his line was breaking during the first meeting that he had. And those people could not understand why someone would have internet connectivity that was shaky. And although that's a different conversation, but we understand that we still have some improvements that we need to do with respect to strengthening our infrastructure in Nigeria. But also, I have to mention that technology is not exactly cheap. And that's why I'm very impressed with some organizations that are doing, I don't want to mention names so that it's not like I'm advertising anyone, but there are some organizations now that are really, really supporting small business owners who want to transition from their manual processes to tech at very, very limited cost. All they need is your commitment, then they support you. I even know one of them who supports up to 90% of the cost of the technology to ensure that you're able to transition and maximize the value offerings of those technological applications. So while that is good, I would say, for example, in addition to a cash transfer, that's another way that the government can assist. If we look at very significant, popular, recognized, standard tech organizations, even homegrown tech organizations that can support Nigerian businesses, then there can be a sort of a partnership between them such that they provide those services and the government defrays the cost for small business owners. Like Oladele would always say, we should tax prosperity. When we support these small businesses, they're going to grow to a point where they would willingly give us the data that we need for tax purposes because they have enjoyed government services and they will be more than willing to also give back to the society.
Very interesting conversation here, I must say. But you know, it's always good to have an outlook. What do you think, considering all of the challenges, despite the challenges? My first topic of discussion, talking about budget deficits, it could be a bit scary when you look at those figures and you see that government needs to meet up with all of these obligations. What is your outlook entirely for the, let's say, the MSME space moving forward?
Okay, preliminary, I would say that I think that Nigeria should stop discussing the budget figure and be discussing the performance figure. So we say 27 trillion, but how much did we really spend in that year? Now we are proposing 47. How much are we truly going to spend? If we look at the figures, I think that that's a more realistic way of looking at those figures rather than just pouncing on the budget figures, really. But for my outlook in this small, medium space, seriously, I think that I was thinking that at this time, there would be a rebound, but that has not happened. And so I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I would say that, like I always say, innovation is the only way that small businesses can continue to thrive. There are adages around Nigeria that says water will always find its level. And so if businesses are able to be smart in innovating, I believe that there will be options. Yes, it might be bleak to an outsider. For me, for example, I might not be able to propose the best outcome for you, but as a business owner, if you put your mind to it, you will definitely find a way out to make significant contributions. I like to use the story of Jacob, who used just stick to change the color of sheep. It's practically impossible when we look at it, but it's documented, it happened. So I believe also that business owners should be creative and innovative about the way that they go about their operations, the way that they go about their business activities, and definitely they would survive. We would only be able to tell stories of businesses that thrive and businesses that outperform those that don't. And then those are the success stories that we want to associate with.
Dr. Pastor, if I'm allowed, Femi Oladele, Rising Star in Residence, Fredborg Rising Stars Academy, Albert Ludwig's Universität. I hope I got that right. Freiburg in Germany. Thank you so much, and hope to see you back soon. I know you have not jackpot, so I'm expecting you back very soon. I'll see you. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
So much.
Yeah, bye-bye.